And we continue learning Dirshu Mishnah Berurah Siman Kof Samach Beis. We're in the middle of Sif Aleph. So let's pick it up from the Ramah in Sif Aleph. It teaches V'hu Adin Im Ashpileim Mitchila Netila. You hold your hands downward from the beginning of the washing at Seifa till the end of Shaper Dam. Rak. You should be careful. That you shouldn't first pick up your hands and then put it back down. Because then you have the worst. The water drips down underneath your wrist, and then then it's to fall back down and be matami your hands. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatan Ches Rakshi Zayir Ratzalaimer. What does this mean? Says the Mishnah Berurah. That which Gemara says to raise your hands. I know that's only if you're holding them upward when you pour the first time. Or they're equal. Because we have to be worried that the water is going to go underneath the wrist. Until you dry them. So, because if you bring your hands down, then it's going to drip down onto your fingers. If you're holding them originally angled downward, you don't have to worry about it. Many achronim are not happy with this eitzah to lower your hands. Because when you angle your hands downward, if the water maybe will never get to your fingers. And therefore, while you're pouring the first pour, your hand should be up. That's what the Magen Avraham writes. Shekenu gam al pi Kabbalah agba davka. That's what we learn al pi Kabbalah. V'chein b'gemara samchu al zeh mikra. V'yinatlin mishwash v'yinasim mishareis mashma. V'chein rayu linog. That is what you should do. V'hinei keiram nagu oilam sheim medaktim azeh lamaisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah that the velt is not makbid on this vatam, and the reason is, continues the Mishnah Berurah, as we'll see in the next year, because Lamais they take a full revius in each hand, and they make sure to wash the entire hand. Then one thing for sure, says the Mishnah Berurah, make sure the water gets in all parts of your fingers. Not like a lot of people, they only go on one side of the hand, they're not particular. That go on the tips of the finger. And with that, we continue with the Mechaber. Says the Mechaber, you're not washing the whole hand until the place that your hand reaches the arm called the wrist. Ains are like then you do not have to pick up your hand. Like the Mishnah just referenced, if you use a full revius, kiven to ein sham mayim tameim klal. As we'll see more specifically in the next if, because then there's no tummy waters at all. Ains are like yadav. You don't have to raise your hands. If you dip your hands in a mikveh, like you don't have to worry about this. If you pour 3 times as well, you don't have to worry. And therefore, that's what we do to be mekel. So multiple eitzas in order to avoid this picking up your hands and the water dripping down, etc. Says Mishmur Sivkatin Yod, Vatam Kisan Vel by yourselves, Ayin Sham, Vishcholkim Azaz Sivkatin Yodalf, the sphere Luta, Items are like be a Yod. Some hold, you always raise your hands. Vayin Bel Yerabba. Look in Bel Yerabba. Shekosov that writes the Iker Keish Cholkim Azeh. This is the Iker of Dehu Das. Roiv Hamefarshim Komak. B'shas Atchak She'ef Shalak Bia. If you can't raise your hands, Yishlis Chaldei Rishayna Shesazim Mechaber Kavasei Lekula. That's what Mechaber writes Lekula Befrat, and certainly Shanotlim Revius Mayim Canal. Not something we have to be concerned about. Stay out of Revius. You've got to your base. The kol shekenim shach ravias like yad. Certainly, if you pour ravias in each hand, as we'll see in the next sif, then there's no tummy waters. Then there is nothing to be concerned with. Sif katan yigimel v'hamachas ve'ich yitzur zeh ayin lekamai sif dalid. Dein shamayim tameim sif katan yud dalid demad amrina mayim rishanim tameim. That which we said, the original waters are tamei. Mushamachisarch like be a yadav. Therefore, you have to raise your hands. Hainu dav kabachs meravias v'achachas kilchamei. It's only if it's less than ravias. V'chein amatzol yadav sivkatan tezvav. Kam kemitama now dein kamayim tameim. Because when you dip your hands, immerse your hands in a mikveh, there's no tamei waters. V'chein agul lahakal sivkatan tezayin. If you have enough water, what should you do? Shita ravias like kol yad v'yad. Take ravias on each hand, so that the water goes over everywhere. Umemelo lo yitzarech ledaktik v'agvam medina. You don't have to worry about this. Uchanal chay muchach mechayodam dalitza zutigam upon mevakiyam achreinim. This eitza boring 3 times. Many achreinim are not so happy with. So we'll finish up a little bit of a shorter share with the Dirshu. We are note number 7 that says, what is the concern? Tam zeu l'shidas reivim afarshim, as we saw in Sivkot and Aleph, but the Rashba holds she'im, shashchach she'achashash hu she'mnishach ma'at chutz l'kishay it's va'isef. The Rashba was worried, he ready if the water goes outside of your fingers onto your palm and goes back. And it's difficult to be mitzamse, and in Mila, all the water is going to come tameh. But again, as we saw at the end of this sif, once you use a full revius, it's not something to worry about. As Dirshu number 8 points out, even though nowadays we're not medaktek, and says the Dirshu, even though nowadays you don't have to raise your hands, as the Shabura himself says, because using your revius. Still writes Aruch HaShulchan, it's roi to raise your hands either way, as the Gemara says that we learned this from a pasuk of Vayinalim Vayinaseim. They should raise your hands, and therefore, and Kabbalah. So there certainly is makkah, and one should certainly try to raise his hands. It's not a big deal, so why not do it? Says the Aruch HaShulchan. So again, you should raise up your hands after you wash them. Why not get the Heilige Bracha of the Aruch HaShulchan and Al Pi Kabbalah? It's a beautiful fake. Kutei Marich brings Al Pi Arizal. You should raise your hands keneged upon him all the way up to your face. The Kaf Chaim says Shem Darizal Chachmei Kabbalah. Again, it should be all the way up opposite your head. And you see big tzaddikim, they wash their hands, they raise their hands all the way high up in the air before they make a bracha. But again, as we pointed out, that once you use a revius, then it's not much of a concern, because then there are no mayim tameim at all. I'll pick it up from Sif Beis the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.